Tell me why coop chickens are defective.
Well, we humans over the past, especially the past century, have done a lot to really weaken chickens. And the primary thing we've done, there's lots of little things, but what it all adds up to is that when we began mass producing chickens in hatcheries, in over the past century, combined with providing them with factory produced food, we took natural selection out of the equation in terms of which chickens reproduce and make the next generation of chickens. For much of human history, chickens had to live in an open farmyard and they had to find their own food and they had to deal with predators based upon their own survival skills.
Mm.
Uh, I wouldn't say that the human had no say in that. You would have a farmer that would be there and some dogs that would be, trying to keep the predators properly hazed and off the farmyard. You would have maybe some scraps thrown out to the chickens. You would have occasions where they would be feeding livestock in the barn, and milk the milk cow or the horse, and some grain would spill out, and the chickens would get that. But they were mostly taking care of themselves. And so, first and foremost, the most important trait that a chicken could have is the ability to survive. And then after that foundation, the humans could come behind that and select, okay, of these chickens that are living on the farm, which ones are laying the most eggs, which ones are making the plumpest breast for meat, which ones have attractive plumage that we think is beautiful. So humans could come in and select for all of these secondary things that were as useful or pleasing to the humans. But the first thing that had to happen is the chickens had to survive. When we started raising them in factories, they didn't have to avoid the fox anymore or the hawks. They didn't have to know how to forage and what bugs and plants and local foods and seasonal foods were available to them. And instead, everything was just given to them. And so, chickens that would not have survived to reproduce in centuries past might become the main breeders in a factory because maybe those chickens are laying more eggs or bigger eggs or something that a human on the factory floor says, that is a trait that we want to enforce, is these bigger eggs, these larger number of eggs that this particular hen is laying, the fact that she won't go broody, which means we can get more eggs out of her. These are all things we want to select for. Well, that hen couldn't have made it out in the farmyard, but she can make it in the factory, and now she can have hundreds of thousands or even millions of descendants as the years go by, and her weaker genes are being reinforced. That's really what has changed, combined with the fact that we've lost a lot of knowledge that earlier generations have had. I think for somebody that maybe aren't familiar with some of the survival chickens that I advocate, think about dogs. If I was up north in Alaska and somebody presented me with a sled, and I said, okay, I'll use the sled to cross this patch of snow in the woods, and I bring out 12 chihuahuas to latch onto the sled, and okay, mush. And the local looks at me and laughs and said, what do you do? And I said, well, dogs can pull sleds. I got 12 chihuahuas. I'm pull a sled. And he's going to say, those are the wrong dogs. You need to be using a Malamute, a Husky, something that's kind of a tough wolf-like dog that has been selected for the ability to live up here in this environment and pull this sled. Well, we all can kind of understand that. We know that there's different kinds of dogs in the world that serve different purposes, and what one kind of dog can do, another dog cannot. But we really lost the understanding that chickens are like that too. Yes, we've created a whole bunch of factory chicken breeds that aren't good at taking care of themselves, but aside from them, there's a lot of other chickens in the world that are still in the world that take care of themselves just fine, that are useful on a farmyard, but we have forgotten about them. The knowledge has been lost over the last few generations, at least in the West, but at least in the United States and in Europe, we have really begun to forget the fact that there are really tough breeds of chickens out there, and we don't know much about them. It's not something that's often talked about on homesteading social media and in the chicken keeping communities on the internet.